Hi, this is Michelle Wiegers, life coach and advocate for chronic pain sufferers. I'm here to kind of continue to tell my story today. 4 months ago, in the end of October 2019, I started what I thought would be regular videos telling my story of chronic pain and how I healed from it. And that first video was just kind of a nutshell of what I went through. And for a little over 2 decades of symptoms, chronic pain, symptoms and other conditions that I suffered from, that I was able to reverse all of those symptoms. And now I'm a life coach to help others learn how to heal their bodies as well. And so I was thinking this morning as I was laying in bed, I really, really want to record the next video, and thinking, why have I waited so long to do the next part? And I think I'm going to tell myself a little bit here because it shows the propensity that all of us have for storing pain and in our bodies. So the pain that I suffered from was manifested through various diagnoses: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, chronic pain syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, among other various undiagnosed things like hand pain, TMJ, neck pain, foot pain, ankle pain, etc. So I was able to reverse all of those things when I learned the incredible connection between my mind and my body and what was really going on in my body. So I had a friend who had all the same symptoms and diagnosis that I did, and she reached out to me and she said, "Michelle, you're not going to believe it, but I'm basically better." And I was like, "No, I don't believe that. What are you talking about?" And she had literally all the same symptoms. We always said we were like health twins, not in a positive way. But so here she was saying that she was reaching out to me to tell me about this book called Unlearn Your Pain, and that she had a practitioner where she lives that she was seeing, I believe it was an MD, who suggested this book, that maybe this would help her heal. And it was really hard for me to accept her. I remember when she first introduced the idea to me, she said, it's like a physical manifestation of an emotion. Like pain is a physical manifestation of emotion. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's like something's wrong with my body. I have these diagnoses. Like, it's not emotion. And she said, well, all of us have it. It's in everyone. And she said, when we get embarrassed, what happens? Like, our cheeks get bright red. That is a physical change. Like, it's activating like literal blood vessels, I suppose, in our cheeks that get activated, and when we're embarrassed, get bright red. And so that is a physical manifestation of emotion, and that for many people who are suffering with chronic pain, what's really going on is that chronic pain is based in neural pathways pain, so learned patterns in the brain and then in the body that cycle through the same pain symptoms over and over again. That's a very short, I'm going to get into more detail on that. But so the neural pathways are the same reason, or it's the same way that we learn to ride a bike and you never forget how to ride a bike. Like in the beginning, it's so hard and you're just focusing on everything. But then you get better at it and then you just never forget. That's a neural pathway that our brain has created between our brains and our physical bodies, like our memory, the memory stored in our muscles, from our brains. So that was the basis of why I was in pain. And when she told me, at first, I was like, there's no way that this is true. Like, this can't be why I've been suffering for decades. Like, you're telling me? Well, first it felt like she was saying, it's all in your head. And I was like, I know she wouldn't be saying that to me because she suffered in the same way. And she knows this isn't made up. I know it's not made up, but the solution to my physical pain did come from understanding what was going on in my head, but it wasn't made up. It was very, very real physiological symptoms that turns out didn't actually have a physical, structural, or disease process cause. What was really going on was there were difficult emotions, rage, fear, anxiety, some grief and loss that I had not been able to be present to. And because of that, for various reasons, in order to avoid difficult emotions about circumstances in my life, unbeknownst to me, my brain went into defense mode on my behalf and said, okay, anxiety leads to panic attacks, and that's freaking crazy and scary. If you've ever had a panic attack, they're scary. You feel like you're dying. So my brain went into like, well, let's protect you mode. And that's what happens in neural pathway pain. And when we understand the science behind the mind and the body connection, the brain goes into protective mode on our behalf. And that was what was happening to me for decades, where my brain went into, oh, well, we can't feel this because we were scared of anxiety and panic attacks. And so let's put this in an easy spot. And for me, that was primarily my back. And then over years, it cycled into all these other different places. When I learned that connection, that what was really going on in my body, it blew my mind. I had the very first thing I did was, and all of these resources are on my website, michellewiegers.com/resources. And those resources, one of those was watching Dr. Schubner's 4-part lecture series on the mind-body connection and the neural pathways that can cause chronic pain. So I went to unlearnyourpain.com. I watched those videos. I read like the first few chapters of his book, Unlearn Your Pain. And I also watched a few other things. There's a TED Talk by Lorimer Moseley I think it's called Why Things Hurt. And a 2020 episode done on chronic back pain and people healing from chronic back pain. And that focuses on Dr. Sarno's work. So those resources are all listed on my website. But I watched those pain science education videos and read the book and realized, I think I've been thinking about my pain all wrong. Like I spent my whole life going to doctor after doctor after doctor, like putting like so much hope in, maybe this test will finally show what's wrong with me. Maybe this procedure will finally get to the bottom of my health issues. And the truth is, so often and most of the time, the tests come back positive. The tests come back negative. There's nothing positively going wrong in my system, in my body. And that was always good news to the doctors, but honestly, it wasn't good news to me. I wanted to find what was freaking wrong with my body. I wanted to figure it out so I could take steps and heal. Like, I didn't want to live like that. So it's really not that comforting when someone tells you, great news, you don't have a tumor in your gut. Well, okay, that is comforting because you don't want cancer, but let's just say it was benign. Like, that would be a great cause to why the pain is there, because then you can take it out and you're all better. But when a doctor comes back and says to someone in chronic pain or with other chronic conditions, good news, there's nothing wrong with you, you want to say, F you, yes, there is something wrong with me, sorry. And so anyway, that was the pattern that I had been stuck in for so long. So the more I read about the neural pathway pain, the more it started to make sense to me. And I'm going to talk a little bit in the next video about what the brain does in our fight, flight, or freeze response. But first I want to tell you about why it took me 4 months to sit down and do this video. Right now I'm in my office where I meet clients who are doing the hard work to heal their own chronic pain. And I'm still dedicating my life to this. So why have I resisted doing these videos? Honestly, because I was embarrassed. I think I finally figured it out. I was embarrassed to continue to put my story out there because the truth is, I suffered for decades. My husband suffered, my children suffered, and all of that time, my pain was because I was repressing difficult emotions that I couldn't be present to. All that time, you know when my pain increased? It's when stress increased in my life. When pain increased is when anxiety or anger or fear or grief increased. My pain would skyrocket. Did I ever know the connection between difficult emotions increasing my pain? No. I always felt like pain had the upper hand. I was clueless as to why my symptoms were changing in that moment. And honestly, continuing to do these videos felt embarrassing. Like, I'm not ashamed in the sense that I'm going to hide my story, but I felt embarrassed, like putting this out there. But the truth is, I never knew that was the cause. I never knew, no one ever told me that having anger about things in my childhood could then produce pain in my body. That didn't make sense to me. Now it does, and I understand why. And that's the propensity for all of us. So let me just confess, like October, the end of October, I did my first video. Now it's like middle of March 2020. And so it's 4 months later, and I'm doing the second video. Why did I avoid it? That's the basis of why people have chronic, many times, oftentimes have chronic pain. Because we avoid the thing that's difficult, and in that process, like we move away from the hard things, and it shifts into pain. Now, these 4 months I haven't had pain, but I have dreaded doing this video for 4 freaking months because I was embarrassed to tell you what was really true about my pain, and yet I'm committed to telling you what was true about my pain. So here I am, someone who regularly helps people heal their pain, and I was avoiding doing a video because I was embarrassed. And that's the same thing that happens with pain that keeps cycling over and over again. I mean, it's probably not embarrassment, it could be, but it's this idea of avoiding the hard things. And when we avoid the hard things, they don't just disappear. Those difficult emotions, they go somewhere. If you're avoiding, something current stressor in your life, or if you're avoiding something that happened in the recent past or even the distant past, and you're like, I cannot go there. I can't go there. It's too hard. Guess what? Your body is going there on your behalf, or your mind is going there. You're suffering in some way when we aren't willing to face the difficult things. We're suffering in some way, and so avoiding never gets us there. But facing the difficult things is the beginning to healing. So, as I said, the next video I want to talk about a little bit of how the brain goes about defending us and protecting us, going into protection mode from the difficult things that we feel like we can't be present to, though we don't know that's happening. It's really all happening in the subconscious. So that's the next part of my story, and I'll move on from there. But I hope this has been helpful, and I can't believe it took me 4 months to get to it. Hopefully the next one will be next week. And so please reach out if you are struggling with chronic pain and any of this resonates with you at all, or even if you're like, no way, I can't believe that, but I have a question. Please just leave a comment, email me, find a way to contact me through my website, michellewiegers.com. Maybe I'll put a link on this video to my website. I'd love to touch base with you and help you begin your journey towards understanding what's really going on in your body and the connection between your mind and your body. Because reversing chronic pain is possible. It's not just possible for me, it's possible for hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering needlessly and don't need to stay there. So reach out and check out the resources on my website. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks.